Hi guys, let's go through this test review so that you have some help if you need it. If you need more help than this, you just need to drop me an email, tell me what you need help on, and I could try to arrange a Google Meet today, or I could try to help you over email if it's this weekend. Okay, on the first problem, you're going to use substitution to see if it's a solution. And remember, if you plug it in and it's true, the answer is yes. And if you plug it in and it's false, it is no. You will have to show some work here. So you're going to plug the 2/3 in for x, so 6 times 2/3. Mine is a little shaky. I don't know if it will wake up as we get going here or if Mrs. Bruno is shaky, but I don't think it's me. I think it's just the pen, but that might be annoying to you. You can just type that into your calculator. 6 times 2/3, same thing as 6 divided by 3, which is 2. 2 times 2 is 4. Minus 4 divided by 4 would be 1. This would be 4 minus 5. Does that equal -1? And the answer is yes. So for the first one, I'm going to have an answer of yes. And then the next guy, they want us to plug in 1 and 5/2. So I have 6 times 1 minus 4 times 5/2. Does that equal -1? That would be 6 minus 4 divided by 2 is 2. 2 times 5 is 10. Does 6 minus 10 equal -1? That's a solid no. So it's not a solution. And next question. We're going to graph this, and it will be easier for you to use the intercepts. You can get y by itself, but if you just let x equals 0 here, I'll have 4y equals -20. If I divide by 4, I get -5. So one of my answers is going to be a little dead spot here in my board, I think. 0, -5. That's going to be the y-intercept. If I plug in for y equals 0, I'll get 5x equals -20. Divide both sides by 5. And I will get x equals -4. So my other point will be -4, 0. If I plot those points in my graph here, 0, -5. Oh, I thought I had a line here. And then -4, 0. There we go. Good job. Find the distance between the points. You are welcome to use the distance formula, which is the big square root, x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. But most of us were using the Pythagorean theorem. When you think of -7, 7 and -6, 4, all you have to ask yourself is how far apart are my x's? Those are 1 apart. How far apart is 7 from -4? 7 from 4, excuse me, that's 3 apart. So it's 1 squared plus 3 squared is the distance squared. That's 1 plus 9 is the distance squared. That would be 10 is the distance squared. Do not forget your square root. So the answer is the square root of 10. And it looks like this one will not have to be simplified on the test, even though it did on the quiz. They do want you to approximate the square root of 10. Please be very careful. Nearest thousandth is 3 decimal places. So if you take the square root of 10 to 3 decimal places, I get 3.162. Now, my next question. The midpoint, don't let this confuse you. Midpoint's supposed to be easy. You add your x's, you divide by 2. You add your y's, and you divide by 2. So -9 plus 0 divide by 2, and 9 plus -9 divide by 2. This would be -9 over 2, which I think you can probably leave it like that. Or you could change it to -4.5, but I think they'll take it. This would be 0 over 2, which is just 0. See if they'll take that. -9 over 2, 0. Has to be an ordered pair. Looking at center of a circle. So when we talk about circles, remember it's change the sign, and those will be squared. And then the radius also has to be squared. So instead of a +6, I need a -6. I need a +5, and I don't want 1 over 5. I want 1 over 5 squared. So my answer is going to be D. This one we saw in the quiz as well. Plug in 3 into your equation, and you get 3 times 3 squared plus 5 times 3 plus 10. If you had a negative number there, this would be a little bit more difficult because your calculator could mess you up. This will be 3 times 9, which is 27, plus 15 plus 10. So 27 plus 15 plus 10 for me is going to give me 52. When I plug in p plus 3, I will need to do so in parentheses, and everyone should be aware of where the mistake is going to happen here. If you have 3 times the quantity, p plus 3 squared, we're going to do that p plus 3 squared first. Some of you did forget to distribute on your second set of parentheses, so don't forget that. So let's do the p plus 3 times p plus 3 first. That'll be p squared plus 3p plus 3p. That's plus 6p plus 9. So that will be 3 times p squared plus 6p plus 9. Now I distribute the 5p plus 15 plus 10. One more distribution, 3p squared plus 18p plus 27 plus 5p. I'm going to go ahead and combine those. Plus 25. What do I got here? 3p squared, 18 and 5p, that looks like 23p. And then I'm going to have the 27 plus 25. That's what I had in the last one, isn't it? 52. So that should be my answer. Let's see if I can type that in. 3p squared, 23p plus 52. Work. Right, looking at the graph, finding values. If you have h of 1, they want to know what y would be if x equals 1. What is y? So you just go to where x equals 1 on your graph, which is right here. And you try to find the point, which is right here, and the y value at that point is negative 2, because the point 1, negative 2 is on the graph. We're going to continue with that. We're going to do x equals 3. If x equals 3, 1, 2, 3, what's the y value? That looks like it's up here at positive 2 because the point 3, 2 is on the graph. And if you have 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, we're going to be up at 1 for the y value. Is this a function or not? You do have to pass the vertical line test. Every vertical line must touch it once. So the question is, what's happening here and at all these hops? Is it only touching it once in those spots? And the answer is yes, because there's a solid dot here and an open circle here. This is a function. It does pass the vertical line test. What is the domain of this guy? It's just the line. There's no risk factors. There's no risk of dividing by 0 or square root of a negative. So the domain is negative infinity to positive infinity. The domain of this guy does have a risk factor. This bottom is not allowed to equal 0. So if we solve this out, it'd be x squared minus 8x minus 9 cannot equal 0, which means we're going to have to factor. Make your list for negative 9. How can you multiply to get negative 9 and find a negative 8 in the middle? This will give me a negative 8 in the middle. So it's an x plus 1 and an x minus 9 can't equal 0. So what would make those 0? Well, if x was negative 1, by changing the sign there, that would be 0 in the first parenthesis. And if x was 9, it would give me 0 in the second parenthesis. So x is not allowed to be that. If you write it like this on your test, it would be fine. Those of you who are taking it on the computer, you will have to write it in what x can be. And x can be negative infinity all the way to the small number of negative 1. And then it can be that small number negative 1 all the way to the big number 9. And then it could continue on from 9 to infinity. Choose a correct graph. This is the absolute value of x. Your calculator can graph this, but you should not have to use it. Absolute values are just like quadratics, but the button, in case you're wanting to know, is under Math. Go over to Number, and it's number 1 where it says ABS. So it would be the absolute value of x, but it's just like an x squared. This particular one is not moved around at all, and it's right there. We saw some different looking ones on the review earlier. I might do this problem twice actually to make sure you, which is the graph. This is the graph. What is the domain? Well, there's no risk factors for absolute value. So the domain is negative infinity to positive infinity. As for the range, that's the down up of the graph. This one definitely bottoms out. Its bottom level is 0. So I'm going to do a square bracket, and then it goes up to infinity. I guess I don't need to do another one. I just can show. Oh, these are all just moved over. Yeah, let's look at a different one. Yeah, so this one would just be up 5, guys, which would be right here. Still, the domain is negative infinity to positive infinity because there's no risk factors. But for the range, this one bottoms out at that level of 5 because it was upshifted 5. So I would do a square bracket because it can be 5, but it goes up to infinity. Okay, find the slope. Please don't forget the y's go on top. Remember, if you spell rise over run incorrectly, the y's would be up top. So you're going to do y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So I get negative 9 minus negative 4 over negative 15 minus negative 2. It becomes plus a positive. So that's negative 5 over negative 13. A negative over a negative would be positive. So that would just be 5 over 13. Okay, this is another slope question, but it's a little bit more difficult. The reason I know it's a slope question is because it's asking me for the average rate of change. That is another way of asking for slope. The number of crimes that occurred in a certain city per 1,000 people had decreased from this to this. Find the rate of change. The thing that's hard about this is when you're dealing with order pairs and time is involved, you're going to put year in the X spot. And that's what makes this problem confusing. Okay, so all you have to do is change this to 1920, 45.3. And 1945, 44.8. We'll do our slope formula. 44.8 minus 45.3 over 1945 minus 1920. What does that give us? Well, wrong calculator. 44.8 minus 45.3. That gives me negative 0.5 over 25. Which is negative 0.02. That's the rate of change is negative 0.02. Now for the label. Well, the label comes from this top divided by the bottom. And the bottom was definitely years. What was the top? The top was crimes per 1,000 people. So what is my rate of change? Crimes per 1,000 people per year, because the division sign means per. So crimes per 1,000 people, where'd it go? There it is, per year. Mine's all the way at the bottom. Okay, let's find the slope and y-intercept of this line. That's just asking you to get y by itself. So 4x plus 5y equals 11. Get y by itself. That's 5y equals negative 4x plus 11. Divide everybody by 5. And I get y equals negative 4/5 x plus 11 over 5. So the slope is whatever's in front of the x, not including the x, so just the negative 4/5. And a lot of you messed up on the y-intercept. It has to be a point. They did give me the 0 here, so that helps. It's 11/5. Now we're going to find the equation of the line. Remember, to find the equation, all you need is m and b, and we have neither here. So the first thing we're going to have to do is find the slope. So I'm going to take negative 4 minus negative 7 over negative 9 minus negative 2. I did that because I did the y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1 for the points they gave me. This becomes plus a positive, and that becomes plus a positive. So my slope is 3 over negative 7. I'm going to go ahead and put the negative in the top for safekeeping. So my slope is negative 3 over 7. Now to find b, I'm going to use y equals mx plus b. I'm going to use my slope, and I'm going to pick my favorite point. I don't like either of them very much, so I'll just pick this first one for convenience. So it'll be negative 7 equals negative 3/7 times -2 plus b. I can type -3/7 times 2 in my calculator, times -2, that is. I'm going to hit math 1 to change it to a fraction. That's -7 is 6/7 plus b. I'll subtract 6/7 from both sides, and I will type -7 minus 6/7, and I'm going to hit math 1 again, and my b value is -55/7. Once you know your m and b, you can plug it into this equation to get your answer. So it's y equals -3/7 x plus b, or in this case, minus 55/7. Okay, this one is the doozy. They want us to write a parallel and perpendicular line to it. They don't give us a slope or the y-intercept, but they give us this line here. So if you take 7x plus 4y equals 5 and you get y by itself, you're going to be able to know the slope for both of your new lines. So 4y is -7x plus 5. Divide everybody by 4, and I get y equals -7/4 x plus 5/4. So for my parallel line, I'm going to get the same slope, which is -7/4. For my perpendicular line, I'm going to get the opposite reciprocal slope, which is +4/7. Now I'm going to use the point they give me, 5, -9, and plug it into y equals mx plus b to get my y-intercept. So that'll be -9 is -7/4 times 5 plus b. So that's -9 equals, go ahead and type that in your calculator, -7/4 times 5. I'm going to hit math 1, -35/4 plus b. Add the 35/4. Hit math 1 again, and my b value is 1/4. So my parallel line is y equals -7/4 x, because that is that parallel slope. We're going to put that x on the side here, plus the y-intercept, which would be plus 1/4. Mess something up. Y2 minus -7x minus 7x. My slope looks okay. That's -9 plus 35/4. Oh, it's minus 1/4. That's what happened. This should have been -1/4, guys. Okay. Now let's do that perpendicular one. I already had the slope of 4/7, so I'm going to do a y equals mx plus b here to figure out the y-intercept. -9 is 4/7 times 5 plus b. That's -9 is 27 plus b. Subtract 27, -9 minus 27. The math 1. And it looks like -83/7 is my b value. There we go. All right, I'm going to take a quick break here because I have to go to a meeting, and I'll get the rest of the review later.